Yeah, am I too loud or we okay?
No, we can't even hear you.
Oh, really? That's not good.
Well,
For
go
some
ahead.
reason, you're low. You got a
Just
volume control on that?
Yes, and I turned it down.
There we go. Go up a little bit higher.
Okay, I'll crank it up a little louder. How's that?
We can hear you, but
You guys are blasting me right off the speakers.
yeah. See that I'm talking about your microphone, not your earbuds.
No, that's the microphone. The microphone. I don't know if I
Yeah.
can.
Go into your Skype settings like I showed you earlier and see if it's turned up.
Yeah, well, I'm I've got the screen for Skype, but then
well, figuring out all the communications. That's why I named my company American Communications Online, but I have advanced communications too. So I'm using TJ Morse Agency. It's just easier. People seem to remember my name better than all the other long ones I've got. But I thought it was pretty good. But it's just so long to write out. But I've got a lot of different domains. So a lot of these people have passed that helped get us up to the moon and back. But Ahmad, did you get a chance to see my book at all, or any part of it?
I read it.
What? No
I
way.
read it.
What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I read most of it. Now I didn't read some of the glossy you had in there.
The glossy. I don't know what the glossy means, but
like your emails people send you and stuff.
Oh, but you read the part with me and Tom meeting Gus.
Oh yeah,
going on?
yeah.
Really?
And the first part. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm. Ken, did you get a chance to look at the story yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, we can talk about the time travel, and that's time in the space age. But now, what I want to do with Ken and Ahmad folks is get them to help us get organized and decide which associations people want to be in. So some like aliens, some like the nut and bolt UFOs, some like the time travel, which I have. Ahmad actually helped me start ERICOP years ago, 2014, I think. Education, Research, Community Online Press, but he was already in the ACO with me from the beginning with Janet Carroll Lesson and Tommy Hogsblood, ACO, which originally was Ascension Center organization for our ACE Metaphysical Institute and Raising Consciousness. And he actually has that on his Facebook with the ACO Association, and we've not made any money, not that it matters because we're just a group of people, but we'd like to put it together and have a meeting sooner or later. We may just teach some of this stuff, but we got to get people together and decide where we're going to put them. Now, we've got some of the prior military, and that's sort of why I'm leaning towards Ahmad Navy. I'm Navy, and Ken's Marine, and then I worked 13 Recon and Kaneohe base when I was in Hawaii. But I've worked with the Marines, and my brother was a Marine out of Pendleton. And Ken, you went to Pendleton and here at Pensacola flight training and over to San Diego, right?
And then I was over to, the Marine Corps Air Station El Toro, which no longer exists.
Okay, but you understand when we talk prior military, and then the reason we have to have order and chaos, we all understand it's easier to do a job when you have a designation, and then your seniority, that's based on time and grade, basically, and you're listed and your officers from O up, or E1 to E9, I believe, unless you become a warrant officer. 1, 2, you become captains and go on up. I think you start out lieutenant. Oh, you start off as I've forgotten already in the Navy.
01, 01, second lieutenant. 02, you've got first lieutenant. Then you've got captain, major, lieutenant colonel, colonel, brigadier general, general, lieutenant general. You're all the way up and down.
All right. And then I know that Rick was GS-18, and that was equal to a 2 or 3 star. But the people that were met or have worked with the Navy, it seems, in the space agency. We're going to call that the Allied Command because of working together jointly with even NASA, Langley Air Force, CIA, and how we're going to go forward with all these people that have passed historically. But there's a lot of people out there that have been in YouTubes, but we're going to do what we can to fill in our blanks as to put why did nobody ever put all these together. And the space travel, and you do lose time when you go out in space the way we think of it on the planet. And some of the time we couldn't put back. And that was in my book. But Ahmad, do you remember anything that caught your fancy on how this will affect us doing this radio show and how we can pull these different groups together?
The thing about it is most of these groups, they want to, it's like MUFON. I don't know if you've ever watched MUFON, but they can never agree on anything. Right. They always think they're the right, you know, and yeah, and it's hard to get people to sit down and listen to another version of basically the same story, just different characters.
Exactly. We're having that. So how can we do this? Go ahead, Ken, your turn.
Yeah,
what do you think?
That's what validates a lot of our stories is that other people that may have been involved are part of it. They give their side of the story, and that kind of validates each other that we're talking for real, not talking about make-believe.
Right. Just because one says it was a gray alien and one says it's a reptilian doesn't mean it wasn't the same aliens that abducted them. It's just that's what they were projected out and made to believe that's what they were being abducted by.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of it could just be at a conscious level in their mind and what you see. It's screen of the mind.
Yeah, it's your perception or their perception of what they want you to perceive. Yeah. See? Shoot, it could all be our government.
Yeah, it could just be they give us some good drugs and make us think that they're taking us. And we can't prove any of it unless you physically there got to watch it.
We already know this.
I was going to add something a while ago, and that was you were talking about the time travel, I think, TJ. And whereas some of us have some fairly long periods of time that were involved, yet when I was talking with Andy, he's talking about he would only be there for a few hours or a total of a day. So anytime he'd come back, he didn't have to have the mind wipe to avoid a long period of time to fit back in with the time zone. So that's something else we have to be concerned about. Well, how long were you there? And that's part of the stuff that I'm trying to dig out through with Dr. Lesson, or some. I'm considering maybe another hypnotherapist that would be. Give more validity to what they're digging out of my brain cells than just one. Or you guys tell me which is best, to stick with just one that knows how to dig information out, or add another one to the pot.
Well, I don't know a bunch of them, but I do know Sasha, and I think he's a very reputable person, and he is good at heart. I do know that. I mean, he intends no harm to anybody. Right. So I don't think he's trying to lead you on or anything.
No, I've been with him in person twice on conferences and things, and a lot of communications back and forth. But, so I mean, I trust him completely and totally. Or else, in fact, that whenever he wanted to do the regression session with me, because I was a quite good hypnotist back during college days, and I would hypnotize student friends and help them cram for exams, and they would make excellent grades doing that.
Wow.
When we were discussing hypnotizing me, I had keyed myself to prevent anyone else from being able to put me under, and so it took me nearly a month to go back and reprogram myself to allow him to do that, and it was quite successful. Next time we met down at Contact in the Desert, I think that's where we did the last one. I trust him completely. So, and if everybody agrees that it's best that I stick with the right one, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I don't really know about anything to do with regression therapy. I've never had it done and never witnessed it firsthand or anything. Just talk to people about it.
You'd be surprised at what's been hidden in your brain cells.
Oh yeah, now I have watched tapes of it and stuff like that, but I'm talking about first-hand experience. No, I've never had any.
Okay.
But it'd be interesting to watch,
The next time that Sasha and them are in the States and we're going to be at the same conference, we'll be sure and let you know, and you can show up and participate with us.
Oh, I'd be lucky to leave this county. I ain't left it in 30 years.
Okay.
He doesn't get around. We have to do everything in the digital community. But we could do it with Skype. We can start showing up and having webinars and things like that. Stanton Friedman was big on Majestic 12 papers, and I had a copy of those at one time. And he and I got to talk a lot, but he was very much staying on a certain level of finding of fact and scientifically in the nuts and bolts, right? But towards the last...
You could probably get a copy of them on the Black Vault website.
Yeah, probably. So I used to know them pretty well, but they had the black writing and the red ink on them too. But he wanted to know how I got a copy. I said, I couldn't tell you that, even if I could tell you that. And I just said a copy on my dresser. He's like, but I want to know how it got on your dresser. And I just said, I can't tell you that, Stan. I don't really know. And then he'd asked me about, Marcel, and I told him the story. But since he had gone, he didn't want to share my story because I went and talked to Marcel before he did for the Navy. They picked me up and took me down it seemed like it was a navy blue van back then. But so this is, my story coming out. It's sort of, I talked to Don Berliner, I talked to Stan, I talked to Glenn Dennis, but see, I've not written my story as finding a fact like you would an investigator, right? So that book is I've got a lot of books out there, but it was more putting it to stay hidden by my channel named Tara herself, or Rose, which is what Sally called me.
Actually, that's just a prelude.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, well, it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning of the real story.
Well, can you help me put it together?
You cut it off when the story was really getting going.
Oh, you noticed that? Yeah, I was saving that, and then my husband died on me. But remember, now you were back with us 2012, 2013, 2014, all those times. Tom didn't die till December 2015, and he was only let's see, how old was he? He was born 1959, and he died in 2015. So he had just turned, 56? Yeah,
and I only talked to him the one time on the radio, and he was in the background a couple of times saying stuff, but he only got on one time while I was on.
All right. Well, he didn't want us to be exposed with our name. He was at Camp David. He was the one talking about the aliens at Camp David with Ronald Reagan. And Janet knows a lot of the stuff nobody else knows, but she wants to put it in our book. And now I'm putting together a part with, Andy and I repelled each other really bad, and Janet thinks there's a reason for that. When Andy and I, now Ken, I met you and Andy together.
That could be programmed. That could actually be programmed into you.
Yeah, I think Janet's finally, after this many years, because me and Andy, we it's like we're the same family, our brother and sister, but you put us in a room and we go opposite directions. So why is that?
See now, I've had him agree to come on a show with me 3 times, and he stood me up 3 times. But I had no problem talking off air with him.
Yeah, and then he's been on my radio show 2 or 3 times, at least twice. And he could talk to me as long as he thinks I'm recording him and doing live on the air. But what he didn't like was in person. When I met him, me and Ken here on the radio show with us here, Mad, we met him in Mobile. It wasn't Tennessee. Lewis Reinhardt was in Tennessee, Ken, but you came to meet us in Alabama, me and Andy and Janet and Sasha in Mobile, Alabama.
That's when I was